When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle. Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish.
The podcast that once you pop her, you can't stop her.
Oh, it's like butt Pringles.
Looking for something thick.
Once you pop, you can't stop. I like that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
And we're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today
we're going to talk about dykes.
we're going to talk about dykes.
And we're going to have...
Can we say that word?
No, we can. I don't know. We have a couple... The only reason I feel great, about using that word is we have two guests that are joining us, Val and Clara, and they are from the podcast Hot Takes with Hot Dykes.
What are they taking and why is it hot?
You'll have to listen to the rest of the episode to find out.
Oh, God. Great.
But first...
oh,
shit. I didn't look up Patreon members.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you to all of our Patreon members. But this episode, we're going to say thank you to Jean-Yves Leduc.
Leduc? French for the bend over.
What? I don't get your leap there, but duck goose, leduc goose.
Because somebody's like duck. And you like,
oh, got it. I get you. That was funny.
Great.
Thank you also to Justin Whitney and to
Whitney Houston.
I don't remember. I couldn't think of a song right then, so I just went.
Somebody.
She probably went.
I want to feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I want to dance with somebody.
And thank you also to Shane Clausen.
Shane Clausen.
Wait, Clausen.
He just got engaged.
Oh, yeah. He posted pictures to the Facebook group.
He's also real hot.
Now I feel bad for Justin and Shane. They might be.
I don't know if they're hot or not. Hotness undetermined.
Okay, TBD. To be dicked. Okay. Also, before we start, I have several corrections.
Great.
First of all, I mentioned that Hitler was part Jewish. And on the Facebook group, I heard that while there are some historical quirks that gave rise to this myth, there's no evidence that he was Jewish or had Jewish ancestry. So, myth. Busted. You're welcome. We might as well have a TV show.
I mean, there's a whole thing of like, if he was Jewish, why would he kill all those Jews? And
well, that's
so if he wasn't, then like, does that make him better or worse? Because he's still fucking evil. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We'll debate on how bad Hitler was later.
Hermione, half Jewish.
It was really weird when she started murdering all those Jews. I was very surprised at that turn at the end of the book. Okay. Also, I got someone mentioned that I got very, I'll say, opinionated when you said 10% of the population is LGBT.
No, you tried to big dick me. It's fine.
Yeah. That's what I'm glad that came across. Okay, so surveys tend to put the LGBT population around 5%, but what someone mentioned in our Facebook group is people lie on surveys. People might not be out. People might not admit it to it themselves. So he said economists put it more like 8 to 10%. So I was wrong to be so violently against that number. That's quite possibly true. And hopefully we'll get to a place in the world where no one has to lie and everyone can just be themselves. So we'll know the actual number.
I hope everyone's gay.
100%. We're calling 101% because some women are pregnant and their babies are going to be gay too.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
Didn't you have a correction?
Did I have a correction?
Oh, well, did you want to talk about poop more or not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we should, because we had a big old conversation about it.
We had
it was
a
pretty
long conversation about poop in our Facebook.
Here, I'll have Dan talk. Oh, shit. Talk, Dan. It's okay to eat your own poop. Great. Thanks, Dan. Moving on.
Yep.
Okay.
Experts agree.
Wait, hold on. Your microphone is backwards.
Oh, my microphone's backwards. Sorry.
Oh, that makes sense because you moved it from... Nope. Just... Okay. You can squeeze it and then turn it. Up to you. So what was the...
I was thinking about ass to mouth, and
as one does.
and we talked a bit about that in the rimming episode, and about the concept of like you're being fucked, and then the guy pulls out and then puts the dick that was just in your ass in your mouth. And
here I thought ATM was a machine for getting your bank money.
Yeah, not anymore.
It's a machine for getting your dicks.
Well, Kyle came up with a much longer acronym than ATM. It was like
your
YOATYOM.
Your own ass to your own mouth.
Yeah.
Different than, because you can do other asses to other.
Yeah. And so I was thinking about like, I got a little fixated on the like fecal borne infection element of it. And there's obviously other infections. The STI, you could pass an STI from your own ass to your own mouth, but like arguably like you're gonna get treated no matter what, right? So
so just spread that shit around. It's fine.
Obviously that puts you at more risk of passing it to more people because there's now 2 places in your body that are infected.
So the example that helped me is E. coli, because we talked about that. So if you can't get E. coli from ass to mouth,
your own ass
to your own mouth.
Yeah,
because if you have it, you already have it.
Yeah, you could, however, put it in the dick of the other person whose dick you're sucking, and or they could have got it by fucking you. But so you don't even need ass to mouth to do that. But that's what I got kind of fixated on. We had a really big discussion about like, does that mean it's safe? And it's not safe. It's maybe safer than we were implying.
It's just there's one thing that you don't have to worry about that we thought. Like, that's not. It is not safe. There are inherent risks to it. It's just, hey, you won't get E. coli just from salad.
Yeah, dysentery. You won't re-get dysentery. You won't re-get hepatitis from your own poop.
You will get kicked out of my house.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks for letting us know all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's learn and grow together.
We also, in part of that conversation, was like, if y'all are listening to us for your sex ed,
I got real nervous.
Don't
I was like,
do that.
Oh my God! If people are like, no, Kyle and Mike said this might give me E. coli. Like, if you're getting to that level of specifics of trusting our information, we do our best. We try to do research, but at the same time, we are not your
doctors.
Sex education. please don't use us. Use us for like general swaths of information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lesbians.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah. Every lesbian I've ever like actually known has been awesome.
Well, we talk about this when we talk to Clara and Val. Like, there is like, we are part of the same queer culture, and there's a bonding that you get to do, just like with your gay male friends. Like, there's a bonding that you get to have with lesbians that you both are in it together. At least that's what I want. I wish people felt that way, and I'm the same way. Like,
if you want to be friends with a lesbian, just walk up and say, "Hey, straight dudes suck, right?"
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, yeah.
Misogyny, am I right?
Hot Dykes with Hot Dykes.
Yeah.
Clara and Val.
It almost sounded like you said hot dicks with hot dicks, which is not.
Hot takes.
Takes. Yeah, takes.
Enunciate, Mike. It's the radio.
It's so we're going to just breeze through news. Nothing happened in the world in this past week, so you're fine.
Well, okay. So, parting the kimono. Looking at the Wizard of Oz. Whatever. We actually already talked to them.
Yes. We were recording this after.
We talked to them for a long time.
And we talked to them, like, a lot of it was not recorded. We just, like, chatted with them. I really enjoy them. They're really funny. They are both stand-up comedians, and they do this podcast, and they're doing all these live shows. So, they're very...
They got here, and we wired everything up, and then it was like, but seriously, shut up. We need to start the show.
But we need to actually press the play button, and then all of this needs to be recorded.
But that's how natural and awesome it was.
Yeah. It felt like I really enjoyed them. Learned a lot. Great discussion. So I hope you all enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
should we take a break?
Yeah. Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
Break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break. So are we back?
We're back.
I love it.
I'm okay with it. We are here with, I didn't write down the thing. Mike, you talk.
We are here with Clara Pluton and Val Nigro from Hot Takes with Hot Dykes. Hey.
Hi.
That's a podcast.
Hi.
We'll clarify.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, we're happy to be here.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Jinx, yay! We're gonna talk at the same time for the whole episode. Would that be cool?
Because we are we're not pandrogynous, but we're obsessed with the concept of pandrogyny. Have you ever heard of it?
Pandrogyny.
I have not, and I need
I
to know.
love a good portmanteau.
Yes.
Though,
So to be pandrogynous, it was coined by this performance artist named Genesis Porridge, who was the lead singer of Psychic TV. Love Genesis. So her and her then girlfriend, who's now passed, Lady J, went under this kind of like existential quest to become just one identity and actually use like we pronouns and speak to themselves like in the royal we.
And they started getting plastic surgery to resemble each other and dressing the same and having the same hair. And now, even though Lady J has now passed on, they are still continuing their pandrogyny from beyond the grave.
Wow.
I wanted to start by asking, because it's in the title of your podcast, the word dyke.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I usually wouldn't use that word.
The only time I say it out loud is like now when we're talking to you guys, because it's in the title of your
Totally.
podcast, and when
Or
the Dykes on Bikes do Pride.
Oh, yeah. We
Or
love
if
the
you
Dykes on
happen to
Bikes.
walk by something that keeps water from going from one spot to the other.
That's with an I, though, isn't it?
It's a homophone, as I would refer to it.
Homophone. I love that.
So tell us just about that word and, like, one, why it's in your podcast, and two, your reactions to people outside of the community using that word.
Well, I will start with a fun tidbit, which is that we almost named our podcast Venus and Scorpio because both of our Venuses are in Scorpio, astrologically speaking, which I know we discussed astrology already pre-show because we love it. But then, yeah, I think then like that name came to us as like we wanted to really celebrate ourselves and our dyke culture that's come before us, and to intentionally use this term that a lot of lesbians and queer folks have reclaimed, but that I know for some it's not as it doesn't feel comfortable to say, but to us it celebrates like, okay, we are like fun, modern, quirky,
Totally.
like, you know, but we also really honor like the lesbian and dyke and queer elders before us, and it's kind of encapsulating all these things in a title that's not necessarily like, if we consulted like a podcast title marketing expert, they would probably be like, you should take that out because it's not like comfy and cozy. But for us, it's like, well, we're not comfy and cozy.
Right.
So that's what, that's my take on it.
And I really love having a podcast name that straight people don't want to say. And
Yeah.
I know that like a marketing expert would probably be like, okay, well, don't do that. But I'm like, I don't care. Where it's also like, I'll say my podcast to, my coworkers, ex-coworkers, because I got fired. But they would be like, wait, what's your podcast called? And I'm like, Hot Takes with Hot Dykes. And they're like, wait, they're like, hot, like, they're like, wait, like, what's a dyke too? Or even like that word, especially if you're like straight or or you're like boring and don't have friends who are queer, you might not even like have an idea of what that term means. And like so much of what Val's saying still like resonates with why we love that word and why we love the name of our podcast today. It's like not necessarily like rewriting what it looks like to be a dyke, but just wanting to like celebrate the history of being a lesbian, as well as like setting this kind of like modern precedent. And like so much of what our show is and what we think that like being a dyke, and especially like being queer and being white or being like cis and being queer, is like to constantly challenge these like preconceived definitions. So when like we put dyke in the title of our show, that was kind of like a promise to ourselves. We always want to like uphold our most like brilliant lesbianism, but also never be like dogmatic or like bogged down.
You have a gay podcast name too.
Yeah, we did a bunch of brainstorming and we came so close to naming it something like Mike and Kyle do things and talk about stuff, and they're also gayish. Like it was like this title where like we're so subversive, it's like 17 words long, and then we were like,
God.
what
it's
if,
like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah.
or what was it, Fiona Apple's album title that was like when the pond falls, and then everyone just put ... because it was like a paragraph.
Right.
We're pretty much Fiona Apple, but
yes.
Then we were like, what if we just did gayish? Like, and then I'm so glad we did, because I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah,
if we...
Gayish rocks.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, Clara, I'm going to go side note. You said you got fired. You got fired today.
Yeah. But it's fine. I'm over it.
Okay.
I'm just
Friday the 13th, baby.
I'm like, it's Friday the 13th. It's
And
a full moon.
Yeah.
I'm like, everything that no longer serves me has to go. I am not attached to having a job. I'm like, they're so boring anyway. I'll like find other ways to find money.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
over it.
Next Friday,
Subscribe to our
hopefully,
Patreon if you're
like,
listening.
It'd be cool if next Friday the 13th it was all of capitalism instead of just your job.
Agreed.
That went down.
That would be
So
ideal.
Let's put the
Okay.
intention.
Yeah,
Okay.
if next one
Start-
it could be like Jeff Bezos gets hit by a car and then like all of his like slaves are freed. That would be ideal.
I think it should be something like boxes fall on him in a warehouse, like something just
Yeah,
appropriate
agreed.
for like what he's
He
doing.
gets caught in a conveyor belt.
And gets pulled like taffy. Yeah, that's so what's that?
Willy Wonka.
What's that
the
final
what if the
fantasy?
delivery drones revolted? What if they gained sentience?
And sliced him. That would be fun.
That'd be cool.
Well, wait, what's that? Oh, Final Destination. It'd be very Final Destination.
Yeah.
If he died in that grotesque way. But I'd be okay with it. They all gotta get guillotined eventually.
Yeah, that's
Is
right.
that true?
Yeah, I think so.
Vive la revolution.
Yes, I think that like if you're worth more than like $7 million, you have to die. Like, no offense. Maybe 12.
Our listeners are pretty low rent, so that's cool. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone will be
I'm like,
worried
if
about
you
that.
have any like billionaire incel listeners,
Oh my God.
hey,
Then
get up.
They better sign-
Redistribute the wealth.
Yeah.
Now.
Then they better sign up for our Patreon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we've touched on it a little bit. I wrote down like we were all like looking up some of the stereotypes associated with lesbians, with I guess
Lesbianism. As
lesbianism.
Yeah.
And we've talked about astrology. I mean, before we started recording, and even now, that is like what keeps coming up. So.
Yeah.
Is that I mean, you both happen to
Yeah,
fit
it's
it, but
it's definitely a
Anytime
stereotype.
whenever we walk into the room, we're like, what's everyone's birth chart?
Okay, listen, because so much what we like to do on the podcast is like we have a Queer Street segment where we like go back into the archives and try to find like old like lesbian books, like pieces of like Queer Street or like little like theses that like were written like in the 70s or in the 60s, and we found this really cool book that was kind of like a journal of these lesbians who tried to start a commune essentially in California in the 70s, and so it listed kind of like the trials and tribulations of trying to start like an intentional back to the land lesbian living situation, and then the first page are all of their names and all of their signs.
Oh yeah.
Like, it
We're
goes
like, yes.
back decades. It goes back decades.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then because I'm like, why don't all the dating apps just like it should just be your name and your sign right off the
Right.
bat. I'm like, why is that?
And
why are they
think-
putting like age or height or that shit? You know?
Totally. And I think that like it's a lesbian trope because like lesbians love the moon, right? They love like the moon, they love the wind, where there's definitely this kind of like
the leaves.
yeah,
that
the
they-
leaves. They love the elements, and I think that that's lesbian because, you know, I don't know if it's like chicken or the egg, but there's kind of this like going back to like a Mother Gaia that's very like Lilith fair and very lesbian. And then astrology is going to be kind of like wrapped up in all of that because it has to deal with the stars. You know, anything that's like elemental is kind of lesbian.
How many decisions do you make based on either your chart or someone else's? Like,
Well,
how heavily does it weigh
I
into your
think that-
decision
That's a
process?
really good question.
I think it's a good question, and my answer is not going to be the answer you're looking for.
Why?
Where it's very like multifaceted. I mean, it's very manifold, as my boss said in the email where he fired me. It's a very manifold answer.
It's first of all, it's personafold.
yeah, it's,
Thank you very much.
it's theyafold. Fuck. I think that my decisions are kind of like they feed into each other. We're obviously like so much of astrology is like I need to love all of signs, understand why I love all of them. But I definitely have like not booked trips during Mercury retrograde. I definitely have like not wanting to start a new job or sign a contract during Mercury retrograde. So I think that like my decisions based on like what I'm going to do have definitely been astrologically minded. But my decisions on like who I would work with or who I would date, I mean, haven't necessarily been, but I usually just kind of like end up wanting to date people who I'm more compatible with.
And I don't like look at it as something that's like restrictive in what I'm doing. Like, oh, I can't do this because this person.
Yeah,
is a blah, blah.
agreed.
It's more like it just helps me to like it helps me to understand people. It helps me to
Understand myself.
yeah, that's primarily understand myself, but also like maybe when certain situations come up, it, you know, to know what's going on. And I think in the planets and transits, sometimes it just makes sense in terms of like frustrations that are happening, or like maybe everything's feeling really easy and like fun and nice right now. So I just look at it as something that's informing me, but it's not like, you know, I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, you're a Capricorn, so we just can't talk.
Totally.
Like, that's
Never.
rude. Although Jeff Bezos is a triple Capricorn, just saying.
But I also,
watch
Jessica
out.
Laniato, who's this amazing astrologer, she's a triple Capricorn. And like her whole, it's like, there's like, if you use whatever is like imbued within your like astrological DNA for the betterment of mankind, like the dissolution of hierarchical institutions, then you're going to be sick.
Yeah.
But if you're Jeff Bezos and you happen to be a triple Capricorn and you're like money rocks and I hate freedom, then you're going to start Amazon.
Also, like, I think it's really rude and not okay to just make judgments or assumptions about people based on their sign. And actually, like, I know we have multiple Scorpios in the room, and I do feel like Scorpio is one of those signs that gets ragged on a lot, that people are like, oh, they're so intense and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm always like, it's like, did you date someone
Usually
of that?
that's
Usually
why.
when somebody's like whining and complaining and railing on a certain sign, I'll be like, let me guess, you broke up with one in the past 6 to 8 months.
Who hurt you?
Yeah,
Who did this to
seriously.
you?
And it's
What
like,
Scorpio?
But we don't do, like, that's not right to do that. And just because one person who's a certain sign did something you didn't like, you don't then say like, oh, that, like, that whole, we don't do that. We shouldn't be doing that with anything.
I agree.
Because we're woefully ignorant, Dan was kind enough to find our sun, moon, and rising signs. For
Oh
the-
my
the three
God.
of us.
Yay.
I'm so
Good
excited.
job,
So
Dan.
with all that said, now go ahead and judge us
Yeah,
based
exactly,
exclusively on
exactly.
what we're
Sounds good.
about to
Time
tell you.
roast everyone.
Yeah.
So Dan is Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon, Sagittarius rising.
Cool. So like I'm Scorpio rising. So when I'm somewhere that I don't want to be, I reveal no information about myself and I interview people, and I can be kind of like cold and a little bit mean. But when you're Sag rising, it's the opposite. So if Dan's at a party and he's like, oh, I don't feel normal, it's like, I'm going to take up a lot of space. I'm going to be like, blah, 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 and then kind of like be a little bit more like louder than you normally would be around like new people. And that's how you're going to like kind of test the waters. But like when you're alone, people that you're comfortable with, that's when you can like show the inner Scorpio of yourself and be like, I'm all deep and moody.
Does this speak to you? You didn't earn a mic this time. Go ahead and just say it loudly so it'll pick it up.
Maybe like if I get drunk.
Yeah, totally. That could be what that is. Okay, what about?
I'm uncomfortable in the situation, probably.
Yeah, so it's like if you're uncomfortable, you might like overcompensate by like being loud, maybe like revealing too much about yourself, because that's kind of like your coping
Or like
mechanism.
kind of just like cracking jokes
Yeah.
or like one-liners.
slutty.
Yeah, definitely. You're like,
Yeah.
I feel safe in my sluttiness. Yes, which I love.
Kyle is an Aries sun, Aries moon, Leo rising.
Oh my
Whoa,
God, triple fire.
Those are all.
I don't know what that. I don't know
Well,
what any of this means.
yeah.
So you're gonna have to break it down.
I know, this is so fun. Well, fire, so all the signs have an element, either fire, water, air, or earth, one of the 4 elements.
Why is
Captain
Scorpio
Planet.
water? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. They don't live in the water.
What'd you say?
You mean like
Scorpio's
this,
water, and I don't understand why.
Oh,
'cause
but it's
it's
also about
symbols.
depth.
Yeah,
It's like
'cause-
symbolism.
Okay.
Yeah. So like,
well, another symbol of Scorpio aside from the scorpion is actually a phoenix, because
Yeah.
Scorpios tend to constantly want to like redefine themselves, like burn it all down, regrow, regenerate, and like reinvent
Yeah.
themselves and evolve as something new. Dan is freaking out.
Dan, worst
I
episode
love
for you
it.
not to have a mic. This speaks to Dan, we know, but also, even without a mic, you stole the spotlight. Let's talk about me.
okay, very Aries.
say
Aries
also-
are the babies.
Yeah. Oh yes, back to you.
Yeah.
So
Triple
double,
fire.
and you have a double there, which is your sun and moon. So it's kind of like your sun sign is sort of like your overall self, but your moon sign is more of your internal, kind of like more private. Like it's not going to always come out right away unless people know you better. And then
or have a
rising was-
podcast where you talk about all your shit.
Yeah, like it might be coming out more there. But then Leo's the rising.
Yeah. So like,
Which is kind of like wanting to be the center of attention and really thriving off of
Yeah.
attention, being kind of like proud and really just thriving.
Loyal.
Loyal.
wildly loyal. Aries is loyal too, but Aries is the first sign, so it's the baby of the
That's the
zodiac.
baby
That's why you were
sign.
like, why? I don't know what that is. Wait, what is that? Whereas me, I am all like, so I'm Sag, Sun, Scorpio rising. So if I don't know something, like I'm not fucking telling anybody. You know what I mean? Like if I don't know something, like I will die, and then I will go to the bathroom and Google why I don't know it. So there's this kind of like curiosity. There's like an ingenuity.
Also,
there's
Aries
this like
is,
freshness.
Yeah, it's really visceral. Like Aries
You feel
will-
everything quickly, and then you have to deal with it right
Yeah.
away. Where
You're
it's
like, I'm mad. You're like, I'm mad now. Okay, I'm over it. I'm happy. I'm sad. Like
yeah,
isn't, like,
you move through everything
there's usually
quickly.
not a lot of like lingering moods. There's usually more of like, okay.
And if you feel a lingering mood, we got to go deeper into the chart to
Yeah.
see what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what about you?
So I am a Scorpio Sun, Taurus Moon, Cancer
Same.
Rising.
Oh.
This is what people hate about astrology. They're like, don't be like, oh.
No, I love it. I love it. It's like someone thinks I'm interesting.
Yeah. We only
Oh,
do,
you feel like you're not interesting?
No, I'm
Okay.
do
I'm
this-
fascinating. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'm glad you think so.
We only do this if people ask us to, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Totally.
It's
We're not that
consensual.
annoying.
This
Yeah,
is
for
all
sure.
consensual. Yes.
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 So
So
like,
you-
so I have a Taurus moon, so I
Yeah.
can speak from experience. It's like the moon is exalted in Taurus, so it's really comfortable in Taurus. It likes to be there. It's kind of like the world moves through you with a little bit more ease when you have a Taurus moon, where you kind of are able to like sit in your emotions in like a more comfortable way. It's also like, well, I don't know if you're a bottom, but it's kind of like canonically the Taurus moons are bottoms.
I'm verse.
Okay, cool. But like verse bottom or
You're like
true verse.
true verse. You're in the
True
middle
neutral
of the
verse.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I mean, because that's a Scorpio. So
yeah, so you're like, you can make sure it
like
works.
down to they're like
Down to clown, no
DTF.
matter what. So
Yeah.
like a Taurus moon is like
But
you love the greater
Taurus moon-
comforts of
Yeah,
life.
loves to like eat, sleep, and fuck.
Totally, like bring it on. And then
Yeah.
so Scorpio sun is all the Scorpio stuff, but like Cancer rising is you definitely like love to assist in this way. That's kind
Yeah.
of like a little. It's like it's very gratifying for you to have the answer to be able to help people. You love to
Oh,
like
yes,
extend
yes.
yourself.
Very
you
caring.
love very caring. You love to make yourself known too. Maybe you can be a little bit martyr. Like you just like love to be known as someone who can help. Like you like having all the resources available to like make yourself available to people in times of need, which is really good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also it can be like Cancer rising. It can sometimes be hard for you to like relate to other people.
Yeah.
And you can be like, I don't fucking get you. And like, maybe you don't get me. It can be like difficult for you to find people who you really like connect with immediately.
The first part of that really speaks to me, that giant ass TV and massive couches so that I can have 14
Nice.
people watch movies.
Exactly. Oh my God, that is a big TV. Wow. Is it safe there?
I'm still nervous every time I come over that
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
it's
that
about to
looks like it's going to
fall.
fall off.
Yes.
It will not, at least I don't
No,
think
so I think astrology is lesbian because I think that like, I mean, maybe that's a trope too, where it's like, oh, like gay men are shallow and like lesbians are deep, which I totally don't agree with. I'm definitely like a hard, even though I was at Pony on Monday screaming at the bartender, calling him a misogynist, but I definitely,
So yes, that is a stereotypical
Yeah.
lesbian behavior.
but like I also am like a fag advocate, and like if we could all get along, like there would be world peace and we would cure world hunger. But for whatever reason, we all have to like cling to like bullshit patriarchal sentiments.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was screaming at the bartender at Pony is because I was there with a bunch of like queer women, and we were like being loud because it's a bar.
Yeah.
And he comes over to us and shushes us, and he's like, "Oh my God, like the way you speak, like it hurts." He's like, "Your screaming is hurting me." And I was like, "You wouldn't be saying that if you wanted to fuck me." And he's like, "Well, that's presumptuous." I'm like, "Well, you're being misogynistic." But it's like that. I feel like I'm like, that's just like one little stick in the mud. We can just move past that.
Well, you're talking about the relationship between lesbians and gay men, and I think there's an idea that like those don't mix. They like
Yeah.
hard to be friends.
Should
which
not.
You're agreeing with
No,
it.
I'm saying that stereotype shouldn't exist.
Oh,
We
okay,
should be
got it.
friends.
I've never experienced that
Okay,
personally.
good.
And like I think it's like so rewarding to be like, none of us are in this for sex. That is not what any of
Also,
us are doing
totally.
here. I don't know.
Agreed.
It's just like very rewarding. I don't have that many lesbian friends. My lesbians moved away.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think they're very like rewarding and
I agree
fulfilling
with you.
friendships.
Totally. So yeah, I don't know if it's like, I feel like that's also a shitty stereotype that like gay men are shallow and like lesbians are like more deep. I feel that's like where the love of astrology comes from. It's like, I want to understand every aspect of myself from every possible way. Whether it's like astrology or getting your palm read, numerology, Enneagram, like all of that's just kind of lesbian. Yeah.
I'm like, is everyone feeling contemplative after the astrology
Well,
talk?
I'm like looking at my list of stereotypes. And I'm like, astrology. We'll just gonna check that one.
Yes. You're just like, how many
Gold
of these
star.
can we hit off?
What were you about to say?
Oh, I was going to ask if you think so you said it shouldn't be a stereotype, but is it? Like,
I think it is,
I
but
do too.
I also like don't really have same thing like that many cis gay male friends.
Yeah.
But I also like welcome them in my life with open arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going through the stereotypes that I have and get your hot take. Another stereotype is in lesbian relationships, there's always one butch and one femme.
Oh no!
Oh,
I mean
my
that's
God,
so
no.
like 2000 and late.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even exist anymore. I feel like I probably know, just in my own circle, definitely not like inclusive of the entire world of being gay. I definitely feel like I know more people who identify as femme than people who identify as butch. But like in no way am I saying that that's like representative of like what it is to be gay. But no, I think that if people have that as a stereotype, then they like are dumb.
All right.
Yeah. Like there's nothing even to say about it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of, and to me, it's kind of it reeks of just that same misogyny that assumes that in like a heterosexual marriage, like the man is like tough and like barbecues and takes out the trash, and the woman is like a lady gal who does lady. It's just sort of like we don't have to have any of these stereotypes anymore, and like. There are plenty of like lesbians or queer folks who do identify as butch or femme, but it's definitely not like. I think
they're there to make you feel comfortable. Those terms are just there to make you feel more comfortable in yourself, like just like dyke, like just like lesbian,
it's
just
not like
gay.
Oh, you have to pair up a certain way.
No way.
And
This isn't like the Sadie Hawkins dance.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, and even like to even assume that all lesbians are like butch or femme. I mean, it's like I think it's just like another binary too that we kind of know that binaries are bullshit.
Totally.
it's interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, it does make me think of like, trying to, of course, gay men get the question, who's the man, who's the woman? Like trying to assign, I know, right?
You're like neither.
Or
That's why we're doing this.
My favorite thing that I saw was a fork and a spoon asking chopsticks, who's the fork and who's the spoon? And it was like,
we work differently. Yeah.
But that reminds me of like assuming that butch and femme, that is almost like trying to make straight people feel better about placing you into, it needs to be a male and a female.
But like butch and femme like come from lesbians. Like, so that's also what's frustrating, where it's like those are terms that were like delineated to keep like queer women safe and like offer community and refuge. And they like existed as such like a mockery of what it meant to like be a man or a woman in the first place. It's like, so like these terms just get like misappropriated throughout time because they get commodified, or like straight people find out about them and then they start fucking saying them, and then that's where everything gets messy, where like bottom up, like these terms are like really cool like ways that you can like reclaim your identity in like a purely queer sense. But when all of that gets lost, people are like, oh, like which one's a boy and which one's a girl? Like butch and femme like don't mean boy and don't mean girl. Also, like they are within themselves like terms that exist on their own, which I think is important to remember.
Mike, you were going to say something.
I think we covered it. I was going to say that like my stereotype that I was taught, but that's bullshit, is just that femme lesbians don't date each other. Like you can see butch and butch, you can see butch and femme, but you never see femme
I've never
and
even
femme.
heard of that one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But
If
like,
you go out and about, you will see that's not the case.
well, here for sure.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I also wonder, we talk about like the vocabulary of things and what it means to be queer, and we say this a lot on our show. That's a very sort of West Coast, like we have the privilege of analyzing issues that way, because like there are people in Iowa that are just like they can't think beyond who's the boy and who's the girl.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know. You don't want to put the onus on people to have to do the educating, and at the same time, they need a lot of education.
You mean like queer people or straight people?
All people, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of gays anyway that are just like woefully ignorant on trans issues. They're woefully ignorant
Yeah,
on
there's no
gender
excuse.
issues.
And honestly,
like,
I wouldn't even break it down by state because I feel like everyone's got a lot of work to do. But
Seriously.
I think that like it's a good point that I would never be like, oh, butch and femme, like that's, we don't do that anymore or something, because that's not the point. It's just that to put everything into a box or a binary like that is not what we're, we don't need to do that. But if a butch person and a femme person want to date, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, I don't know what I thought this related, and I had a better transition earlier, but here we are. I think
Speaking of lesbians,
Speaking of
Val's people
us
in the notes.
talking,
I love this
that-
little list. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the
This
shortest.
is our gay agenda.
I'm like, why is the font so small?
Good
eyesight.
I have the worst. I just got new contacts. I've
Because-
been wearing mine for 3 months and
No.
like the same ones. And my doctor was like, "You can't do that." So anyway, no, I have.
because he knows that I can read upside down and doesn't want me to know what's on his sheet for talking points.
True.
So he
Usually
makes it as
it's-
tiny as
Of
possible.
Much
course, the Scorpio
fuller-
can read upside down.
You
just
can
have all
probably
these gifts.
you can probably like write backwards, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's dyslexia, but thanks.
Okay, in 2 episodes ago, y'all talked about the top shortage.
Oh my god, that was wow.
one of our favorite episodes.
People were very like touched by
And then
by
on the
that
next episode, I heard that. Okay,
Yeah, we got a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
good, bad.
Good.
Well, good. Yeah, because I think there's like, there's just such a concept. I keep seeing, we were talking about how we kept seeing like memes about it where it's like the top shortage is real. And we were like, what does that even mean?
Totally.
I mean, have you guys ever had that is there have you had that thought?
Seattle is a city of bottoms. That's the thing that people say all the time.
I've
Interesting.
heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys find truth in that at all? Are you tops? Who's top? Who's bottom? Who's inverse?
So in a relationship, I find I'm very verse, which everyone. So I always say verse bottom when I'm like hooking up. Usually it's like I need someone to fuck me. So like usually hookups are bottom, and then no one so I say verse bottom, and everyone the joke is verse bottoms are just bottoms,
right.
In verse clothing, or no one says that. I don't know what that means, but no one believes that. Like when I say verse, and it really is true in my past relationships. There's been a give and take.
Sure, of course. Because
Yeah.
to say like Seattle's a city of bottoms, like what does that really mean? Like, oh, everyone here is passive.
Yeah.
Everyone here is cold. Everyone here is limp. And I just feel like that. It's like if you think that Seattle's a city of bottoms, and like go to the places and like go find the people who you think like exude top energy. It's like to say that like there's a top shortage. This like our thesis was that there was a shortage of people advocating and being honest about what they want.
Yeah, because it seemed like there was this issue where people were almost sort of becoming a bit passive in this it's just because there's a top shortage that I'm not getting what I want sexually. Whereas like we were discussing that, are you being honest with yourself? Are you like, have you really given this some deep thought? Have you thought about how to communicate this in terms of even just the energy you're putting out into the world? And I think if you're putting out the energy that like what I want sexually just isn't out there.
Yeah. And
Then-
like no one's going to fuck me the way I want. And like, what do you
Yeah.
expect?
Yeah. And then,
Like to have good sex, there's like autonomy and like agency within that. It's like if like you need to be the top you wish to see in the world. Okay, you need to go about and like ask for what you fucking want.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not gonna get it.
well, also I think that we kind of discovered as we were talking about it on the show that it's hard to, we were having a hard time even like defining what we think the terms top and bottom mean. And
Totally.
it's not just like,
You mean in a lesbian context or just like overall?
in general, because we were both sort of like, okay, what do these terms mean? Let's just sit here and say what our definitions are. And it's like, well, it's not, we know it's not as simple as like, well, the top is the one who puts the thing into the hole and the bottom is the one who just sits there and is like, put it in my hole.
Because especially
like,
if you're speaking in terms of like shortage and surplus, then there has to be like a greater existential question to it. You know what I mean?
Our culture, our language, so much is obsessed with penetration.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
It doesn't do us any favors at all.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And yeah, that's so true. And especially like being queer like gives us a luxury to think about like sex in like a plethora of different ways. Or sometimes it definitely is like put the pee in the anal hole. You know, like sometimes it really comes to brass tacks and we're just like ramming it in and having a good time. Right. But then like we can also like sit in its multitudes as well, people. Come on.
And also
have
like,
some nuance.
Yeah. And then it's also like, well, being a bottom doesn't just mean like, oh, you're passive and you're quiet and you don't really say that much. And being a top is like, you're like big and tough and you
G.I.
talk
Joe.
loud. Like we had to kind of look at some of our own stereotypes, I think, even about like what top and bottom, you know, what that language means.
Yeah.
Totally.
For Seattle, I wonder how much of it is like just a dom sub thing that people are reading into. Like it's not even necessarily about who's penetrating and who's getting penetrated, but it's that we're a very sort of polite, passive culture compared to like the East Coast, where like the tops seem to me anyway to be like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck you. This is gonna happen.
Right.
That's not a conversation that would happen in Seattle.
Like,
Or it doesn't
I just
feel
got turned
like
on. Sorry. Okay. I was just realizing in my head, I was kind of listening to you, but I was mostly in my head going through this like, oh, it's really cool that there's this term power bottom because it reminds people that bottoms are not just, laying there. But then I was also like, oh my God, we so think that bottoms are the ones that lay there and do nothing that we had to create a different term for people that aren't that, even though bottom can be
Of
multitude.
Course. Or like tender top or soft top.
and, like,
I've never heard that.
Yeah. Tender top is cute.
Yeah, I identify as a top, but I think more of like, a tender top or like a, you know, but then also I think it's like it can change over the course of your lifetime or even like the course of a night or it's not just like this hard and fast identity that you're just like a top or you're a bottom.
Because I also was asking my Instagram followers like, oh, should we all be like working towards a switch utopia? And some people are like yes, and some people were like no, because I also think it's like really like powerful and cool to like know what you want so didactically in bed that like you know how you get off, how you get other people off. It's like all of that should and like could exist within one another. And then that's why I get mad when people say there's a top shortage. I'm like, no, there's not. They're out there. Go find them.
I'm sort of blown away by the idea that you would identify as a top as a lesbian. Like that's kind of a foreign concept to me, or a new concept. It makes sense, but but for me, it was more about until this moment meeting you and talking about it. I thought of it in terms of mechanics as opposed to identity for
so you were
lesbians.
thinking of
but there also is mechanics within lesbians having sex.
Sure.
Yeah, whether they have penises or not.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think like for anyone who has sex that like topping and bottoming, or it's sort of like what do you like want out of the sex that you're going to be, or what do you feel comfortable doing, or how do you feel comfortable being? Like that's anyone who has sex. I mean, I do think the terms kind of more originated from gay male culture as far as our research
And
goes.
a lot of the research that we were doing were like by like gay scholars discussing it, but then
gay,
it was
like
able to
cis
kind
male.
of cis male, but then it was able to kind of be translated to like queer women or queers.
Yeah. So I think like for anyone who's queer, that's probably going to be in their lexicon ideally.
I don't know why I'm thinking about this right now. It's because you talked about whether they have a penis or not. Are there a lot of lesbian TERFs? Do you know them?
Definitely,
have you
like
them?
not. I've only honestly encountered TERFs online through like online rhetoric, and then I'm like, oh my god, are they just bots? Like, are all TERFs bots? But then it's like, no, they're not, because they're. No. I think that's like definitely like a mindset that is no longer being accepted by like mainstream lesbiana, and so like but also it's like Katie Herzog works for The Stranger and she's a fucking TERF
who personally trolled our
podcast.
Yeah, I mean, and they're out there, and sadly there's like a fervor and a like militant aspect to that concept that like, you know, there's women born women, and then there's like then everyone else is in this other category. And unfortunately, the Michigan Women's Music Festival, was
it's such a stain.
They became the sort of the representation where they didn't allow trans women at the festival, and so many lesbians went to that music festival, and it was such a haven for so many folks. But then that festival ended up folding because they couldn't get with the times that it's not okay to do that anymore. But then I have found unfortunately there's a large contingent of folks even who went to that festival regularly that can't let go of that concept that if you weren't born with a vagina that you're not a woman, right? That's what it boils down to. And it's trans exclusionary. So it's unfortunate that these folks do have platforms, and I see in the comments on social media stuff and on any article about anything relating to trans women, the trolls go in and are like, well, I just think that you have to have this to be that. And it's like, no.
my stereotype internally would be that that TERFs are straight women, and it sounds like you're saying that's
interesting.
I've only known TERFs to be lesbians.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, that's fascinating.
Totally.
Yeah, because there is this whole contingent historically from
Michigan,
especially from Michigan, of lesbians who feel like there should be spaces that are for women born women, as the term they like to use. So I associate it actually as a lesbian thing.
It's and maybe I'm super wrong. That was just sort of thinking if you're a lesbian and you're out, that you're going to be more sensitive to people who are different, right?
Right. And also I guess technically anyone could be a TERF.
Yeah.
And technically nobody should be a TERF.
No one should. You shouldn't be calling. You can't call yourself a radical feminist and put before it trans exclusionary. That makes no sense. Yeah. But anyone of any gender could say I'm a feminist, but I also believe that women with a vagina should have their own. I guess anyone of any gender could say that.
I feel like it's a similar thing of. It blows my mind how every single minority isn't you're cool, you're cool. We all get what it feels like to not be understood, to be stereotyped, to be hated, and it's shouldn't we all just be we're a majority. If you put all the minorities together, we're the majority. So
I know, but that just comes because there's safety in replicating white supremacy and patriarchy. There's safety in being no fats, no femmes, no Asians. It's that just comes from a coping mechanism of wanting to restore and sustain your precious minority, because you see it working for straight people and white people. So you're I'll do this too. But I agree. It's there's no excuse anymore to have any sort of behavior or thought processes that aren't for liberating the people who are the most oppressed still in 2019.
Yeah. So speaking of lesbian sex, the phrase "my transitions are really solid."
Yes.
just if you didn't catch that, a phrase that we hear all the time, and I think this is also so old school at this point, is lesbian bed death.
Ooh, LBD.
The other LBD, where it's
Wait,
I don't little black dress. Very Sex and the City.
I always thought it stood for lesbian bed death, but then I saw it in the dress contest.
Oh yeah, you were what?
What?
The fuck?
They're talking about it too. Yeah.
I don't know what it means. I don't even know where it comes from historically. Genuinely,
the first time I heard about it, and this is there might be opinions about that, is the L word. That's the first time I heard about it, but that means it must have been a thing before.
You were watching the L word and it. Oh, I'm trying to remember when it came up. Do you remember? Which season, which episode?
Was Jenny alive or dead?
I know.
Yes.
It's okay if you don't. Or maybe they just mentioned it as they had to have at some point.
The fact
obviously.
that I have a terrible memory, so the fact that I remembered
That's
that
okay.
is I'm very impressed.
Yeah,
with
I don't
myself.
really know where it comes from. Don't people stop having as much sex anyway when they're dating for a long time? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not something.
It'd be interesting to look into why was that ever attributed related just to lesbians.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Like
really...
a theory that I have is that it's just all about misogyny. It's that
Good theory.
Could be.
but that women don't like sex. So two women they really won't
They
like
don't
sex.
like sex. They
that's
both
a
have
good
a headache at the
theory.
same time. It's like, no, you idiot. It's the opposite.
Totally.
They never, no.
Double headache.
Yeah. It's like, God. Because that's the thing. Like, I just think, like, not having sex as you're in a relationship for a longer time, like, it's just, I mean, it can be something that just happens. It could be like, hey, maybe you're not a great match sexually or in certain ways. Maybe you need to be open. Maybe you need to not be open. Maybe you need to break up. Maybe you, again, it's back
That's
to
why
like...
I feel like lesbian bed death doesn't make any sense, because it's like, is anyone like as like all of the sexual orientations, like for the most part, like who's better historically at like advocating for their needs as they come up in a relationship in order to get what they need? Lesbians. Well, I guess there's a stereotype that lesbians never break up, so maybe it's like lesbians never break up, but then they should have broken up, so now they don't fuck. Like maybe that's where it comes from, because like that's a stereotype that like might be true, but also that stereotype pisses me off, because when you live together it's hard to break up because it's so expensive to break up, because who's gonna keep the apartment?
And it's like, you know what's a thing? A straight bed death. Like, isn't
Absolutely.
that like
totally, where it's
the
like all
prime
of our
feature
parents
of-
had sex twice to make their two kids and
my
then they
parents-
die.
My parents slept in separate twin beds for most of my life.
makes
It's
me
like,
Wow.
that's the bed death.
It's just like TV in the 50s.
Literally.
I thought I Love Lucy right away.
Yeah, and it's like, shouldn't it, the bed death, it's that, and it's like it can be monogamy. Not that there's anything wrong with monogamy, and it is like what some folks want to do, but like, if you're just being forced to like share a bed with the same person and maybe you don't want to have sex with them anymore, like, you're probably not gonna have sex anymore.
My first marriage had a whole section of sexlessness, and it was pretty awesome for me. But I
Oh, right, because you were like, I don't want to have sex with you because you're a woman.
So
Yeah.
our crack researcher Dan here found a Wikipedia article about it. But the concept of lesbian bed death is
Okay,
based.
he searched on Wikipedia.
Great.
Oh, you're like, don't
Great.
give him all that. He didn't go to the Washington Archives.
It's
He's
based
out
on
of the Smithsonian with a magnifying glass, stealing the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
What if we could just poach Dan and make him like us better and have him be our
Oh my God.
We paid
We're
one. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
better treat him right.
Oh no! Wait, no. Dan likes to be treated badly, so you'll have to.
Fuck you, Dan. Yeah, you're a producer. I hate you, bitch.
All right.
Oh,
He's
no.
getting his needs met. It's fine.
He seems to have many needs that
love
need
it.
different things to be met.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Fetch me a beer, boy.
Okay, Mike.
Yes.
I interrupted you, and no one else. So go ahead and say what you're going to say.
The concept is based on a 1983 research study by social psychologist Philip Bloomstein and
Okay, a man.
Canceled.
and sociologist
or
Pepper
a female whose name is Philip.
Wow.
and
We choose
Not
our own
likely,
names, but we're
yeah.
not naming ourselves Philip.
and sociologist Pepper Schwartz.
Okay, that might be a lesbian. Pepper Schwartz, Google image immediately. She may be
Pepper is
lesbian.
an
She
iconic
is-
lesbian
Yeah.
name.
She presents female in this photo on Wikipedia.
Okay, so Pepper Schmitz, was it?
Pepper Schwartz.
Might be a dyke.
Yeah, so
Jewish.
it was published in American Couples Money Work Sex, the journal, which found that lesbian couples reported lower numbers when asked, quote, about how often during the last year have you and your partner had sex relations.
Okay,
Weird way
I
to
can
phrase
say
that.
Skewed.
15 things that are wrong with that from a scientific standpoint, from what?
Philip is wrong.
being the first.
We keep Pepper,
and
but
it's
fuck
like,
Philip.
oh my God, they did a study and were just like, how often do you have sex? Like, that's...
We're also, as a lesbian, it's like, what's sex? Like going on a moonlit drive. That's sex. You know, there's so many ways to have
Yeah,
sex.
how do they define sex?
Yeah,
And then,
totally.
Like,
it's
I
just
don't-
penetrative.
Yeah, and then there's
I would
so
also
many things.
assume that
The sample size might have been fucked up too. I don't know.
I would also assume that men would have more, like, they're like machismo, what might want to brag and overstate their numbers. So
Yeah, I was
lesbians
gonna say, like,
Totally.
yeah, sometimes
their numbers
so
look lower. It might be
true.
true, and then men were like, I fucked everybody in my college
Totally,
class
yeah.
or whatever.
Literally.
Some of the self-reporting with those studies can be
Yes.
skewed.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
So apparently, it's interesting. So the study has been heavily criticized for methodology. It's like super fucked. And
thank you,
Pepper Schwartz, the lady involved in this study,
the lady scientist,
who is credited with inventing the phrase lesbian bed death.
A traitor.
Oh.
Is from the University of Washington here in Seattle. So
we have to find her. We should have her on the pod.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to her. Give her a piece of my mind.
And you know what? Yeah, and it's interesting too because I mean we all know that like women or non-men in the academic and scientific realms like constantly have their work stolen or twisted or whatever. So it's like I'd be curious like how did that happen that phrase like became such a pop culture concept. Like there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have her on the pod.
Pepper,
Find out more.
Are you out there?
Pepper.
Pepper is a cartoon like
Dog.
Yeah.
But also, great first name. Pepper's fun.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Pepper's
Yeah,
good.
that Animaniacs song that because people wanted pepper on the food. Oh yeah, like the whole like explanation of history as being a byproduct of the spice trade.
Oh, we love to learn through cartoons.
Yeah.
Just like an Adventure Time. Yes.
Ta-da!
Now cartoons are like 97% less racist, which I really appreciate. Yeah.
Right direction. We're going in the right direction.
Finally.
With this. Yeah.
Yeah. In one artistic form.
CGI though is a sin and needs to be stopped.
I don't like CGI in the way it's developed. Like Secret Life of Pets, and they all look like weird bobbleheads. Yeah.
Also,
I'm like, stop at Minions, and then everything else should be just cartoons.
I also thought Secret Life of Pets was just bad. I didn't regardless
see
of the animation. I think I stopped. I was on a plane, so I was desperate. And if I turn something off on the plane, that's
It's
like
gotta be
this
bad.
is very
So
bad.
true.
You're about dogs. I fucking love dogs. A movie about dogs. Are you kidding me?
Perfect.
No.
Not right.
I've been saying all the things on my list. Do you get stereotypes from, I'm curious to start off with, within the LGBT community? And I always think of specifically gay men because I think
Of the stereotype that we don't get along.
well,
Yeah. Are the gay men are misogynists?
yeah, and they're like on the privilege side that, you know, like we were talking about, like minorities don't always support other minorities. It's like the gays are like, well, we're the, I don't know. I just don't think the
'Cause
rest
you're
of the
men.
community, because
Right.
it's
You didn't want to say
man.
it.
I mean,
You're like,
find
there's
this
something
thing-
about us
There's something
that's different, and that is
They have a weird place in culture.
Yeah.
No, so I'm curious, like just within the LGBT community, are there other stereotypes that are assigned to you that you want to mention?
I think it's like feel so privileged because I literally don't. My life is so queer. My life is so like curatedly queer in a way that is like so like radical that I was able to kind of like manifest the communities and the friends and the bars and the events and the people that I spend my time with, that I like really feel grateful that I don't necessarily like walk in my day-to-day life within fellow LGBTQ folks that I see on a day-to-day basis, feeling like I'm ever going to be like, you know, subjugated or made a stereotype of. So I can't really say. I really have to kind of like rack my brain and think of something.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, and I'm always like, if someone does say something like that, especially if they're like also gay or queer, I'm like really taken aback, and I'm like, what? Because I think I've just had it happen with people just assuming that I'm butch because I literally have short hair, and I'm like, doesn't work.
That's
like
all
that.
it takes, right?
Yeah. Or, you know what? Yeah, but that was people in my workplace. There's one other queer person, but then I think it was a straight coworker who was like, "Oh,
always
you can't help." Like somebody had to get a new office chair, and they had to like put all the pieces together, and they were like, "Oh no, it was my queer coworker who said that." He was like, you're not good at putting stuff together. Like you've never built a cabinet. And I'm like, no, what? I don't even know how to do that at all.
We've never
Like,
been to IKEA together.
I'm like,
I don't believe in IKEA.
I'm
It's
like,
a sham.
It's the worst.
Yeah. It's
don't
like,
believe
Why would
in
I
IKEA.
pay to put something together? I want
get
to
a
pay for it
headache.
already put together.
I look at that instruction thing and it gives me a headache. Like I get like
Oh my
white
god!
noise in my head.
I honestly think that IKEA is the biggest scam of all time. Like you're really paying to do work. Why? It's like I get if you like are like a woodsmith or you're like a trades worker and that's intuitive to you, but why? It's like the money. I'm wasting money trying to put something together poorly. It's called going to Goodwill. Like I don't get IKEA.
I think that was the last time I got hit with like
There you go.
a gay to gay stereotype? And
Yeah.
I was like,
you're like, whoa.
I was like, come
Hey,
on,
now.
we need to like, you were supposed to be my ally at this workplace.
Okay, well, I guess like the one time where I'm the one stereotyping is when it's like, oh, like gays can't drive. Whenever I see like a gay person driving, I'm like, whoa, really? I'm like, you're doing that thing? People know about this? They're like, yeah, I can drive. I was like, okay, maybe I'm the last gay who can't drive, but I'm working on it. I have my second driver's test in October.
Do you have a license?
No.
Wow.
I failed my first one. I have a joke about it. I'm like, I failed my first driver's test because I don't need to be told to go straight. Because that's a microaggression.
Yeah.
I don't need a man telling me to go straight. So I failed. That's how I deal with the shame of failing my driver's test at 25.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What are you hearing lesbian? Are these like coming up a lot in your like cis gay male communities or friendships?
My experience has been that like the gays and lesbians don't mix has been largely true in the bars in Seattle. Like when I see lesbians out and around in the bars, I'm like, I notice it, right? Like,
Oh, well, yeah. It's like if I go to Pony on a Saturday, I'm feeling noticed. People are like weird. They're like, that's gross
It's like,
that would be
oh my
here.
God, the worst I ever had was when I went to a fucking bar in Palm Springs at 5 p.m. on a weekday, and the music stopped. All of the men with their like little button-down shirts like stopped their conversations and turned and were like,
It's like it doesn't make it doesn't make it harder for you to have sex because I'm here. Like that's what pisses me off. It's like you can still cruise and like flirt and like be annoying with me still being here and having fun and want to listen to good music. Like it doesn't like me being here. It's not fucking like Battleship. You see what I'm saying? It's like you can still get to your target with me also being in line to get a drink.
and also like Pony is supposed to be one of the better bars.
I
It's
know,
supposed
but
to
it
be great for
depends.
radio.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
there's like certain bartenders where it's like, if I know you're gonna be there, you're gonna like, I have to sit outside because you're gonna like tell me I'm too loud if I'm with a bunch of women and queers. And I would say like, Pony on the weekends, like I don't go unless there's an event that I'm going to. Like I am not going to Pony on a Saturday.
That makes me sad because Pony, I can definitely understand that.
Yeah.
Pony and Queer Bar, my expectation is that those are queer spaces and all queer people
But who's there?
are welcome.
But who's there?
And
I
that's
have
like
seen, I guess I mean, in Pony, I definitely do see more what I assume are gay men, but I also see more queer people, women at Pony than like
yeah. Oh,
a
same.
lot
It's
of
definitely
other-
same. Where it's like I
Definitely.
say like on like Tuesdays where there's karaoke, like Thursdays there's usually like, you know, Queen for Queen or there's Sex Wave. Like those are like events I can go to where I know it's going to be like mostly just queers, and like if there are gay men, they're like down with the sickness. But like Saturday at Pony, it's like I'm literally in hell. Like I'm on Fire Island and they're trying to light me on fire. And I don't really care, you know. It's like I can like take up space and be around a bunch of like misogynistic people because that's my life, but I would prefer not be that way.
God,
Yeah,
what would
for
happen if
sure.
we went to Fire Island?
Okay,
Would
'cause
they be
I-
like, go back to fucking.
Because I was like, because me and like my dyke friends were like, oh, like we should do like a weekday bar crawl where we go to like the Eagle, the Cuff, and like Diesel. When we were like, maybe that actually wouldn't be fun.
Question: what's the most appropriate way to signal to you? I'm ecstatic you're here. I'm very happy that you are here.
In
because,
my mind,
because that
I
also
would-
seems
You're
equally
flagging
awkward in
lesbian
bed.
friendly.
Yeah, honestly,
there needs to be a handkerchief color.
yeah, that would be fun.
I also think the same
Buy
thing.
me a drink.
Oh,
Yeah, totally. If you're at the club and you're like, there's lesbians here and they feel unsafe, like buy them a drink. I would gladly take one.
There are lesbians here.
Yeah.
It's like-
But like, oh good, oh goody.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, in our place, it's okay.
I've been to
It
our place
always-
twice, like blackout.
Same.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what you. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
where
our
you go.
place is
Yeah,
for.
totally.
Lesbians are always on the second floor playing pool. Like,
Oh, that's why we like an activity.
okay,
Yes.
okay, and I can imagine
Yes.
the top floor where all the gay dudes are like, looking to fuck someone on the dance floor.
And I
like-
get
like-
it. Go fuck someone on
Yeah.
the dance floor,
By
but
all
like
means.
also let me hang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or down, whatever.
One last really quick thing.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
I've caught myself multiple times meaning it in a gender neutral way, saying "you guys." Should I like?
Oh, I think it's whatever. I definitely say y'all just because I don't want to refer to anyone as guys. But also it's like I usually say y'all.
Y'all.
You people.
Yeah, or folks.
Comrades.
people.
Yeah.
This is gonna be the most hipster thing I say. I started saying y'all like 11.
Because you're
years
from
ago.
Texas. Fuck off.
No, I didn't. I never said my fingers out.
I know.
have feelings.
I know.
I never said y'all in Texas. And it was when I moved here and I was like, I don't like saying guys. That doesn't feel good to me.
I
so
say
y'all.
everyone, folks. Those
Folks
are good
feels
ones.
like a thing that's come, especially FOLX. Like, folks feels like a word that I'm seeing more and more.
It's nice.
Yeah, I have to work on that a lot because I grew up in New Jersey. So
Hey, you guys.
all you say in New Jersey is you guys. Just you
Use?
guys.
Yeah,
You say use?
Not use.
I say used to make fun of Val.
Like, yeah, that's too deep. That's like I actually did. My friend, I know a couple. I knew a couple like friends' parents that said use, but that was like, okay, you're like, that's scary. But yeah, so it's really ingrained in me. I think even in stand-up comedy, it's just really common to be like, you guys get it, or that guy, no, or like, so it's hard. Yeah, I kind of have to like be conscious of that and try to work on like not saying it, because I know that, you know, for some folks it's not going to be gender affirming, so it's I'd rather err on the side of not. Yeah.
Did we solve it?
Yep, we did it. Cool. Gays and lesbians love each other now, and never, and peace rain down on
So
the
I have
queer
to think of my
world.
gayest thing and my. Okay, say the gayest thing that I've done.
Oh wait, we're
We're
gonna.
not in that segment.
We're not there. We're gonna. Always take a break, and then we do contact
perfect.
info, and then yeah.
Okay, good. I have to pee.
So
Okay,
should we take a break?
let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
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 This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We are going to do our gayest and straightest.
We're going to do our gayest and straightest, but first,
Clara and Val, how can people find you? What do you want people to know about you?
say all the things.
Great. So my name is Clara Pluton. My Instagram is Clara Pluton. It used to be Real Chris Angel, but I'm like, we gotta brand it because I need to be famous really quick because I clearly can't have a job. It's private right now. You can request to follow me. It's private because I'm trying to find a job. And then once they hire me, then they can see all my nudes and all my memes about being a communist. My Twitter is my name, and you can find more about me and videos of me doing stand-up at my website, which is clarapluton.org. It has to be .org because my dad bought clarapluton.com to get me to talk to him.
That's a whole other segment.
It's really bad.
Join us next week when we talk.
Literally, I'm like, okay, cool. I have to be NASA now. This sucks.
And then I'm Val Nigro. You can find me on my website, valnigro.com, or on Instagram at teenbeat_84. And you can also find our Hot Takes with Hot Dykes page on Facebook, and you can listen to the podcast anywhere podcasts are heard.
Yeah.
We also wanted to plug, we have a really awesome show coming up here in Seattle for the Seattle listeners out there at Town Hall Seattle on Tuesday, September 24th at
7:30 p.m.
I was like, I thought I remembered all the details.
Is that like a tickets at the door kind of a situation?
Yeah,
Or-
tickets at the door or online. Townhallseattle.org.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a live podcast taping.
Yeah,
We're really
it's always
excited.
really fun.
Awesome.
Well, our website is gayishpodcast.com.
Our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube is all at Gayish Podcast or / Gayish Podcast.
Our hotline, you can send text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
And our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
Cool.
All right. Gayest and straightest. Do one of y'all want to go first?
Okay. So my gayest is that I went to the dog park today for 2 hours, but I don't have a dog.
Wow.
I'm like, that's definitely pretty gay.
That's hard to beat.
I was like, no, I just want to come along. I want to watch all the dogs. And there was this like little Yorkshire Terrier, like little bumblebees, so cute. Love. I'm just like, one day we'll have a dog. And then the straightest, I recently watched Fast and Furious 3.
Going into the back
But
catalog
also,
is-
Fast and Furious is gay because it's so homoerotic. They're all like, yeah, let's drive each other's dicks into each other's asses. I'm like, it's definitely like the gayest of the action movies, but it's still straight, technically.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Quick side note. When I got my dog first, Reynolds, he's the best. I was sitting there with, he's like a small dog. He's like 25 pounds. And then this lesbian couple next to me had this like big Doberman. And I was like, oh no, we're both matching the stereotype.
Oh,
This is
but I
like
definitely know like so many dykes who have like little Pomeranians too.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
definitely
that's the
both.
gay stereotype. Is
Yeah,
that like
of course,
a
a
little
tiny
cute
dog.
fluffy dog? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that's not what we're doing. Val.
Yeah. Just me trying to think of something I did that was straight is literally confusing
Making your
my brain.
short circuit. Right.
Because when you said
Oh,
like
I have one for you.
well, when you said Gayest, right away I thought of the fact that within the past day I've scheduled 2 therapy appointments with 2 different therapists and a birth chart reading for my birthday.
Amazing.
I love this.
Yeah. But then straightest I was struggling a little.
Maybe that you have been working 40 hours a week recently.
I know I was gonna say like
That's pretty
going to my
straight.
job.
Yeah.
Like,
I always think it feels like I'm impersonating a straight
It is.
person
Working
of like
40 hours a week is
because
heterosexual.
I usually work like more like 30 hours a week, but I was temporarily working full time to cover while someone else was out, and I was like, "What the fuck why am I spending 8 hours a day with these people in this little like
Seriously.
windowless room, like fake typing on a computer?" That's what I do.
Do you do that with your hands?
I just,
that was
I just go like this, and then like for the listeners, I'm doing full palm all at once typing, kind of like that little Pusheen cat on Facebook. And then I just stare at the screen, and I'm just not typing.
Val goes to work and then just hangs out with me on Google Hangout. It's like, hi, 9 a.m. And then we just text the whole day.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
cute.
nice.
So she got you fired.
No, I mean, many people got me fired. In the course of one day, I talked to at least 16 people.
You know what?
I got myself fired.
The full moon wanted you to not have that job
And
anymore.
so we no longer do. Yes, for a manifold
what
of
the
reasons.
full moon wants.
Yes, that's what the full moon will get.
What was everyone else's gayest and straightest?
So the gayest thing about me this week, I need to really figure out how to do the Reader's Digest version of this. I have been claiming on the podcast that there are no 10-inch penises in the world. That like anybody who claims that is lying, because I've been with a lot of supposed 10, 11-inch penises that weren't very, very big, but not that big. Anyway, so a friend of a friend used to date this straight guy who allegedly has a 10-inch penis, and I actually know him because we've met before and we've talked a little bit in like a... If I pay him, I can see it is like the situation that's happening. Anyway, last night, he's like,
Mike said to me, I need to go do a drug deal. And I was like, I need more information.
Oh my god.
So he's like, I just broke up with my girlfriend. I'm like, okay, great.
hurry up. Come on,
I'm gonna
wrap
go.
it up.
I'm gonna go hang out with this. I'm gonna go have sex with this girl for the first time that I like want to see. Do you have any Viagra or Cialis? Because I'm gonna have marathon sex and want that to happen. So I was like,
Had you been in communication, or he just
Yeah.
like DM'd you out of the blue?
no, we kick each other like from time to time.
Okay,
like,
because you want to see his dick.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You keep him in the back pocket.
Yeah.
You're like, when are you showing me your
I just
dirt?
like I'm doing the long game,
Of course.
the extra long game.
Yes.
If you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And so I actually happen to have some individual packets of Viagra that I got from another friend of mine who was just handing them out like candy for a while. Anyway, I was like, yes, I do. Yes, you can have one. Met in a parking lot outside Kyle's house and gave this dude a Viagra so that he could go bang this chick.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
Dan,
just like that.
Single, sir.
do you have Viagra in your pocket?
Love it.
Dan is acting like I'm the weird one. That's
Yeah.
fine. You never know when you're going to fuck. Okay.
Anyway, the gayest thing about me this week is giving Viagra to a straight dude.
Do you
so
see
that
his
I
dick?
could... No.
Yeah, like but why isn't he like, measure it? Like, why isn't he proud that it's straight men love?
Wait, 10 flaccid or hard?
Hard.
Okay.
If I
they
had...
never do flaccid
No,
size,
we don't
do
give
they?
flaccid measurements. No.
They're
They're
like,
doing
it's
both.
0.2 millimeters flaccid, but it's 12. It's 12.
If
hard.
I had a 10-inch dick and I don't, everyone would know. Like everyone
Do we
would
want a
see
10-inch
it.
dick though?
Yeah,
There's-
like,
okay.
do you wish you had a 10
Certain people want.
incher?
Certain people are stuffers.
There's-
So like just cram it in there
There's
like a slinky.
There's boyfriend dick, which tends to be a little bit like something that I could take regularly,
Okay.
which is not a 10-inch dick. Every now and then, you just want to really get railed by the biggest
Yeah.
dick you've ever
For sure.
seen, but for me, I just can't.
So it's like a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, but I'm obviously like everyone is different. I would be like, if I had to take a 10-inch dick, actually, no, I won't say
You're
that.
turning yourself on again.
I'm I'm looking at this wine bottle like,
He's aroused right now.
It's okay. I got like turned on by like condensation on a can of yerba mate, so I understand. I'm like, it's glistening. Just get out of the shower.
That's true.
So I get it.
Mike, what's your
the straightest thing about me this week was Kyle and I hung out last night, and
So you two are like best friends.
yeah.
Okay, cute.
this is the first time you've called me.
That's it's
Scorpio.
not. You just have a
Yeah.
terrible memory, like a goldfish.
Oh, I'll get to hear it again in the future, and it'll feel like the first time every time.
We drove my Jeep to go pick somebody up to go to the bar, and we're waiting for this guy to walk down the sidewalk and get in the Jeep. And Kyle is getting in the back seat, so he pushes the seat forward, and there's it's a lug wrench to take the tires off, to change the tires, but. So the fact that I have a lug wrench in my Jeep is part of the straightest thing, but it was
know what a
also
lug wrench
it was also that you were like, oh, is this a mouthpiece? You were like going to sing into the.
It looked like,
That's
well, I didn't see
gay.
the rest of it.
Or like it was a pipe or
I thought
something.
it was the mouthpiece for a brass
I'm like,
instrument.
no one asked me what it was.
but
You have short hair. You know what a lug wrench is, right?
but you were
I'm
out.
like, I thought a lug was a lesbian until graduation. Everything is just a lesbian
I know,
stereotype.
acronym.
Filter on everything.
but yeah, the straightest thing was like, I don't know if you heard it because you were outside, but I was like, it's a lug wrench, Kyle.
I probably just ignored that part.
Yeah.
You're
Anyway,
like, I'm singing now.
Also,
I'm recording a TikTok.
I
how about you?
well, you answered. You're one of my close friends. Well, you haven't earned best friend status.
Whoa.
Great.
We'll get there.
I just discovered a riff.
We've known each other for 11 years.
Oh my god.
Everyone else has left you.
I'm the only one here through thick and thin.
So true. Don't say true things to me. Okay, my straightest thing is my latest favorite song is called. Did I use this already? Are you? Oh no. Okay. It's called Tia Tamara, and it's a woman
By
talking
Doja
about.
Cat?
Yes.
I love that song.
And she's talking about my boobs are big like Tia and Tamara.
Yes.
And of course, gay men are supposed to be scared of any kind of lady part. So the fact that that's like my jam right now, it's very good. Check it out.
It's
That's
really good.
It is so good. That's my straightest thing. My gayest thing is I had to educate my psychiatrist on the fact that like the mental health risks of LGBT people. She was like, oh, it's interesting. Like she was just clearly just kind of pontificating on like, oh, I guess it'd probably be harder, more likely to be depressed for LGBT people. And I was like, yes, LGBT people have an increased risk for mental health issues, including depression and suicide. And I had to tell like
the emotional labor.
I had to inform her about my marginalizedness and the risks. That,
Oh my
and I
god,
was
you don't
like,
have a queer psychiatrist?
No.
Do you have a therapist?
Yes.
Okay, good. Is he, she, they are queer?
She's not queer.
Okay.
But I love her.
Okay, good. As long as there's a therapist in the picture.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why my psychiatrist is like, but what drugs do I need? And we just can get into that.
Yeah.
And she's like, have you ever considered drinking coffee in the morning? I'm like, fuck you, give me drugs. Like,
Yeah.
my
Oh, you take
therapist. I am on, I forget.
Anything like Adderall?
Butrin? I don't know. I don't know what I'm
I'm trying to find a new Adderall dealer.
I can ask my
wanna buy
psychiatrist for
some.
some,
Yeah.
and she'll tell me about like plants and running, and I
And
can
you're
be like, but great,
no,
can I have no?
give me the drugs. Give me the speed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, bye. So that's it.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
it. So a special thank you to Hot Takes with Hot Dykes.
Yay!
Thank you so much for
Thanks
being
for
here.
having us.
Thanks,
check out-
Mike and Kyle and Dan.
And Dan. Yeah, check out their podcast.
And thanks to all the lesbians out there in the world, whether they have gay friends or not.
Yay!
Nice.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's it. This has been Gayish. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.